There are three aspects to any large chopper that need to be well executed. Number one is the sheath. A large chopper like this needs to be transported well and have a lifetime of use ahead of it. Number two is the blade. It not only has to be well designed, be able to absorb a lot of impact and shock while also biting into whatever material you're connecting with. And number three is the handle. The ergonomics of a chopping knife are very important to keep you locked into place so the tool doesn't go flying out of your hand and absorb shock, not transferring it to your hand, making it painful to use the tool. Well, this is the ESEE Kukri in their expat series of knives, which are produced in El Salvador out of 1075 steel currently. And in today's video, we're gonna thrash on it, not only here in the backcountry, but also in the blade boot camp, putting it through some standardized tests. And stay tuned, because a little later, we're gonna be doing a chop off with this ESEE Kukri versus the ESEE JUNGLAS and the Spartan designed K-bar made HARSEY Kukri, to discover if this knife has what it takes to check all three of those boxes that you want in a good chopper, or does it fall flat? So thanks for joining me today. It's gonna be a blast. If you're new to the channel, I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's go ahead and dive on in. So let's kick it off with that first attribute that is often overlooked, the sheath. This large blade has to be transported from point A to point B. And if you don't care about this sheath and you want to skip ahead to part 2 with all the blade action, there are chapters in the timeline below. In this day and age, it's so rare to find nylon anymore. And coming from ESEE, I kind of expected more. I'm going to be honest, because yeah, it's just a basic nylon, you know, ballistic. You got rivets throughout. You've got 3 button snaps to hold it into place with a gap there. You know, you pop, they seem to hold well. You kind of lift and pull, easy to put on, easy to take off, good size belt loop, but it's already fraying in a few places, very lightweight, bogus. And knowing, it's a two-factor. One, just in this day and age, it's so rare to find nylon anymore. Now I know this is like ESEE's budget line. We could have found some like ballistic polymers maybe, you know, something like that. And knowing that you can go to get a Condor made in El Salvador with 1075 steel, and you can get their really good dense leather sheaths on most of their models, and they're usually between 100 and like 125 bucks for similar size tools. I'd pay an extra 20 bucks if it means that I get a really good high quality leather. So for those of you who are looking at this as like your dedicated blade, yeah, it'll get the job done for the time being, but it would have been really nice to have a much more upgraded sheath. And even if it costs us 20 bucks more, I think that would have been well worth the investment instead of now having to go eventually to probably either aftermarket Kydex or aftermarket leather, and on a knife of this size, that's gonna cost you a pretty penny. And since I touched on it a moment ago, I paid $100 for this model, which is about the going price for large blades like this made in El Salvador. I will have links throughout the video, not only over to this ESEE Kukri, but also the ESEE JUNGLAS and the HARSEY Kukri as well. So if you feel like it's time to pull the trigger, those are all provided below. And a little bit later, we will be unpacking truly how valuable and what's the value of this compared to the other 2 blades. Now to attribute number 2, and why we're all here, the blade. A good chopper has to have an excellent blade and perform well. Now this ESEE Kukri is very traditional in its design. That kind of narrower neck flares out, putting all the weight and energy up front here. It's gonna weigh 17 ounces and has a balance point right there near the expat logo. So that means when you swing, all that weight and velocity is moving through whatever you're slashing at. Definitely designed to do that. Now it's gonna be 11.5 inches overall with about a 1/2 inch ricasso and at a 1/4 inch thick with a full flat grind. I wanted to see how it would be able to do the finer work, and it could do it. I was able to get a feather stick not too difficultly. You know, you gotta balance a Kukri because of all that forward kind of angle. And so it was able to do that, able to, you know, remove material from pieces of wood, do a draw cut if you want to, those type of activities. It did it okay. Particularly when I got to like man-made materials of cordage, it really struggled. Whoa, okay. I had to go about to here before that would cut through. Put a lot of pressure on that. Oh, way better. Way better edge geometry on that. Yep. Because the grind angle is just pretty thick for me on my particular model. Now it's made out of 1075 steel, so that thicker grind angle on the edge means that it will be able to handle the impact better and won't roll right away. But the trade-off is the Kukri and the HARSEY Kukri and the ESEE JUNGLAS goes through like cordage, rope, and feather stick making and just wood fashioning easier than this does. You would have to completely reprofile the edge if you wanted to do finer work and really have it excel in that area. Now, you may not see the need for good precision cutting with a big tool like this. When it comes to batoning, because of that grind and thickness, it blasts through wood. So on that front, it's a great wood splitter. It's gonna be able to handle a lot of larger diameter logs and crack that open for you. You definitely wouldn't need a hatchet if you don't want to carry it because of its ability to split. Now, because of its trajectory, you're going to be holding the piece of wood, and then the blade is going to be kind of like swinging in a catapult sort of way through the piece of wood. And so that's just something to kind of be aware of. It's a very different type of batoning experience than your standard straight bladed machetes like the ESEE JUNGLAS. Now, when I was processing wood in the backcountry, I found that it bit in well to dead wood, removing the amount of material that I would expect going in about as deep as many other choppers would. So it performed adequately and did the job. Now, it will not outperform a hatchet, but if you're looking at this as a replacement, it will definitely be able to do whatever type of work, shelter building, fire breakdown of wood that you would expect. On the flip side though, if we're talking about greenery and going through live growth, the edge geometry being a little bit thicker wouldn't be ideal in my mind for that, particularly when we were traveling through Florida for over a month. I would prefer something with a thinner edge like my ESEE JUNGLAS. If you're wanting to thin it out a little bit, that's definitely going to be a chore, and ultimately you're going to need some sort of belt sharpener like a work sharp and really reprofile it that way. Now, I know we're all looking forward to our chop off, but before we get to that, I do want to invite you guys to hit that like button. It does help us go up in the rankings and get recommended to fellow outdoorsmen and knife lovers just like yourself, and to consider subscribing if you're not yet a subscriber, making sure to hit that bell icon so you can be notified every week when I break down gear just like this. And it is truly you, the viewers, in partnership with our regular sponsors that help me to get out here, buy gear just like this, and take the time to test, give you guys my feedback so you can make wise choices on whether or not these pieces of gear and equipment are right for you. I want to take a moment to highlight a piece of gear that was with me while I was testing out this Kukri in the backcountry that gives me peace of mind every time I'm out there, and it's today's sponsor, which is Zoleo and their satellite communication device. And this Zoleo has proved to be an essential piece of kit as I have explored some of the most beautiful but rugged and isolated terrain North America has to offer. And has proved its value time and time again because it gives my wife and I the confidence to be able to communicate back and forth when I'm out exploring. She's been able to alert me to emergencies and situations that have occurred back at home, and because we are communicating over the Iridium satellite network, I know I can communicate back to her when plans change or trouble arises on my end. And most importantly, if there's an emergency situation, I can hit the SOS button and immediately start communicating with first responders and get medical attention for myself or people in my party while sharing my GPS coordinates with those first responders. And so guys, I'll have links in the description below over to the Zoleo website where you can explore all the other features, because I'm just scratching the surface of what this device is capable of, as well as the different subscription plans that they have available. And I'll also include my exclusive promo code, which waives the $40 activation fee. So I invite you guys to check it out and get yourself connected so that you have peace of mind the next time you go on your outdoor adventures this summer. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the chop off. What we're gonna do is take this 2x4 and I'm gonna do 20 strikes each with all 3 choppers that we've been talking about today to see, after 20 swings, which one goes the deepest. I'm gonna measure it. And we'll talk about also how clean the cuts are. So let's begin with the ESEE Kukri. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1 inch. What I'm gonna say there for the Kukri out of those 20 strikes. Number 2, HARSEY Kukri. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Whoa. Got some deep ones in right there. So I'm gonna say just a hair more, but like 1.25 inches off of those 20 strikes. All right, this is gonna be interesting with the JUNGLAS. Definitely a different kind of weight balance to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Just about the same, about 1.25 inches. Well, and just for clarification's sake, I honed all 3 blades ahead of time so that they all had a pretty even playing field. One wasn't like duller than the other, and it just came down to the edge geometry and grind angles and their weight distribution. Now, over here with the ESEE Kukri, we kind of get like the medium of the cuts. It did pretty clean and obviously getting about the same depth as all 3 of them. When we moved to the ESEE, or excuse me, the HARSEY Kukri, that one required the least amount of force and energy to go through, but it also was kind of the most gnarly and mangled because of that lower saber grind, and that one will perform most like a hatchet in chopping out of all 3 tools. And then finally the ESEE JUNGLAS, which is the cleanest, and that's kind of what I expected, cleanest, smoothest, I mean this looks like buttery smooth right there, cuts of all 3 blades. And getting back to the ESEE Kukri itself and hitting that third and final attribute that every good chopper needs to have, we're talking about the handle. Now we have that full tang construction. It is definitely taken from that old Ontario style that we know from those older Kukris that have now been discontinued since Ontario's gone bye-bye, and I don't know what's all happened with them, getting bought up and all that. But you get that kind of like stacked look so that it's 2 slabs of wood. I'm not quite sure what type of wood. I couldn't find, I think it's walnut, but don't quote me on that. So they've etched them in to give you traction points, which is fine, gives you some good grip. It's not just like slick wood then. You have 3 pins and then a tubed lanyard, so it's good that we have a lanyard attachment right there. The finishing on these handles is pretty bad. Not only do I have like cracks and gaps everywhere, I can get floss lines in between probably half of the attachment points throughout these handle scales. So that's the first aspect. It just doesn't seem to be like really adhered well. And I'll be honest, I've had Condor machetes that come with my Carta that just have way better lines to them and fit and finish to the handle. So that's kind of the first piece. It's kind of rough around the edges for sure, just in how they were built, and seem like, you know, potentially, I don't even know, like, is that gonna crack and chip on me eventually and stuff? So would have liked to have a different material, or definitely way better, you know, polished and just done. And then add to that the fact that like all the shoulders are super sharp. This is a sharp shoulder, sharp flat transition there. Then the back bird beak is very abrupt and then isn't contoured. I mean, that is a sharp, almost 90-degree angle right there. Same back here. So I'm gonna be honest, there's tons of vibrations, tons of shock on this handle. It is not in any way close to one of my favorite handles to grip when I am chopping. And that is the purpose of this Kukri, to mainly do chopping. It'll get the job done, and if you're wearing leather gloves, it definitely helps with the shock and those type of things. But like the old Kraton versions would just absorbed the shock a lot better in those old style Kukris that we know. And then if the angles had just been more contoured, like we're seeing not only on some of the competitive options, but think of like a Becker BK9, think of like the ESEE JUNGLAS, that has a nice rounded, that would have helped a whole lot in the shock that occurs. So all of those factors coming together means that this would definitely not be my first choice for chopping. Now you can grip up and get pretty close. You do have a pretty large ricasso there, so you can, you know, control the blade relatively well for this size a tool. And when it comes to the finer work, I didn't find too much of an issue with hot spots, because at least they did kind of round the bottom portion, even if the top portion is quite flat. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this, just looking at it on screen? Your take, am I missing it? Or do you agree that this is definitely not the most ergonomically designed handle for a chopping device? So guys, out of the 3 attributes we've hit today, this Kukri only checks one of the boxes in the blade performance, and definitely for me falls short on the sheath and with the handle. And guys, as always, that's me, my mileage. Your mileage may vary, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. What is your take, your thoughts, particularly if you own this Kukri already? How has it been holding up and performing for you? I always appreciate your guys' feedback back in that area. I hope this video has been fun, but also informative, giving you the data that you need to make a wise choice. Until next time, I do invite you to check out the other video popping up and to subscribe. And always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.